A whisper before the bloodshed. There are moments in history where men fight not to survive, but simply to refuse the idea of surrender. Moments where the world already believed they were dead, and yet they stood up anyway. Tonight, we dive into three of the greatest last stands ever recorded. Three battles where courage outlived flesh, and where the line between life and legend blurred into one. Welcome to the final moments of men who chose to die on their feet rather than live on their knees. 1. The Attack of the Dead Men, 1915. It begins at 4 a.m., a quiet morning on the Eastern Front, until the wind shifts. A strange green mist crawls across the trenches of Osowiec's fortress. Russian soldiers, barely awake, do what they've done 100 times, brace for artillery. But this time, it's not shrapnel, it's chlorine, a weapon they have no protection against. When the gas reaches them, their lungs turn to acid, their eyes burn, and blood pours from their mouths in thick red streams. One by one, they collapse. 900 men dying in silence. Hours later, the Germans advance, expecting an empty fort. But then, from the piles of twisted bodies, a sound rises. A cough, a groan, a wet, bubbling gasp. And soldiers who should have been dead begin to drag themselves upright. Their faces are shredded, their uniforms soaked in blood, their breath a rattling death cry, yet they stand, and they march. Bayonets raised, stumbling, bleeding, unstoppable. To the Germans, it looks like the dead themselves have returned for revenge. Panic shatters their line. Some flee into barbed wire, some trample their own men. Others simply drop their rifles and run. The dead men attack, and Osowiec's fortress holds. Not because the soldiers lived, but because they refused to die quietly. 2. The Siege of SZIGETVÁR, 1566. The Ottoman Empire is at its peak, and Sultan Suleiman marches toward Vienna with an army of 100,000. Standing in his way, a tiny fortress named SZIGETVÁR, and 2,300 defenders led by Nicholas Zrinski. For weeks, cannon fire tears the walls apart. Wave after wave of Ottoman soldiers crash into the stone, each time leaving thousands dead. But the fortress still stands. Finally, as flames consume the last buildings and only 600 defenders remain alive, Suleiman sends terms of surrender. Zrinski answers with silence. And then, a whisper to his men. Let us go out from this burning place and meet our fate in the open. He who dies will be with God. He who lives will be honored forever. They push their final mortar to the gate. They light it. They blow a hole straight into the Ottoman ranks. And then, they charge. 600 men against a sea of tens of thousands. Steel clashes, bodies fall. Zrinski himself is shot twice and collapses at the front. His soldiers fight over his body until they are cut down one by one. When the Ottomans storm the gates in triumph, they find one man left, sitting in the ruins, holding a torch. He drops it onto the last stockpile of gunpowder. The explosion kills 3,000 more. SZIGETVÁR falls, but Europe is saved, and the empire that seemed unstoppable meets a crack it never truly recovers from. 3. The Battle of SARAGARHI, 1897. In the mountains of the northwest frontier, there is a lonely outpost, SARAGARHI. Its purpose is simple: relay messages between two forts. But on one cold September morning, 21 Sikh soldiers look out and see 10,000 Afghan warriors marching straight toward them. Reinforcements won't arrive. Escape is impossible. The commander, Havildar Ishar Singh, gathers his men and says only this: "We will fight and we will die, but we will not move." The Afghans strike like a tidal wave, but the Sikhs fight with the precision of legends, marksmanship so deadly that the attackers pile up in hills of bodies beneath the walls. Hours pass, ammo runs low, the fort catches fire. One by one, the defenders fall, each taking dozens with him. The signalman, alone in the watchtower, sends his final message: "Permission to pick up my rifle." The response returns: "Permission granted." He fixes his bayonet. He fights until the tower itself burns, and as flames swallow him, his voice roars across the mountains: "Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh!" Blessed is the one who fights in the name of God. When reinforcements arrive the next day, they find 21 fallen warriors surrounded by over 600 dead enemies, and a legend carved into the stone. Where legends never die. History remembers many battles, but last stands. Those are something different. They're not stories about victory, they're stories about refusal, about drawing a line and telling the universe, "You may break my body, but you will not break my will." These men died, but their courage, their defiance, their final breath became immortal. If you made it this far, then you're the kind of person who doesn't flinch when history gets brutal. So do one thing before you go: subscribe and join us for the next descent into the darker side of the past, where legends fall and the truth never dies.